The Sharpest College Football Podcast. This is our Week 9 review. This is BuckMetrics, joined as almost always with Robert Martin. Robert, welcome back to beautiful Canada after visiting our fine country here.
Yes, I was in actually Florida this past weekend. Actually, you could see it on Twitter. We did a presentation at Florida Atlantic University talking about the polling we do with them. Unfortunately, there was no college football game there on Saturday. I think you had a bye week, or I think they did. Yeah, we missed the game by a couple days. They play on Friday. But yeah, we went down there and it was good. You could see a little bit of sunburn on the side, as happens when a Canadian goes to Florida. Yeah.
No remarks on like how Tom Herman or Cam Fancher are polling in Florida?
No, we did not pull that. No, but we did pull Florida, just not about that. Maybe we'll do that in the in the off year in the 2025. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. With that, good to have you back. If you are new, thank you for joining us. And if you're returning, we appreciate your continued patronage. If you are new, this is the glossary. We refer to these terms throughout the podcast. Do a screenshot, paste it into your workbook where you do all your college football work and refer to it throughout this and other episodes of the podcast. With that, we will go to Who Won Week 9. I will start. Hard to argue against Texas A&M. Really good come-from-behind win against a top 10 team. I'm still a little divided here about guy we love, Mike Elko, at a place we do not love, College Station, Texas. Impressive win. I am very much in a wait and see, very specifically as it relates to this. Marcel Reed came in for the benched Connor Wegman. Threw 2 passes for 70 yards. I don't know. Call me crazy. That doesn't seem really repeatable to that degree. What he did do was keep on running the option, and I think he caught LSU from what I've learned after the fact. It seems like LSU just had no response to that. So they won the week. I'm not going to say it's not repeatable. You can only catch a team by surprise once with the same change. And we'll get into this game more in part 2 and actually in Island Time, but very good win for Texas A&M. Only losses to a very good Notre Dame team, but I need to be convinced that this is not an aberration.
Yeah, it's a very interesting game here. Texas A&M was the favorite in this game. They obviously fell behind, but then basically in the third and fourth, they just absolutely started dominating this game. And it's interesting because last week I said that LSU was one of my teams they overperformed expectations. Good job. And then they immediately underperform and lose the next week. Um, this is interesting. Again, we have seen some issues with Texas A&M, specifically when they lost to Notre Dame. But that Notre Dame loss after Notre Dame beat up Navy looks a little better. The win against Florida, the University of Florida, looks a bit better there too now.
Yeah.
This team might be like sneakily good. I don't think this is like college football playoff level team. But like this is a team that could come up here in the next couple of weeks and maybe ruin a couple people's seasons, just like they just did with LSU there. And there is a game there we played, I believe, in College Station there a day or so after Thanksgiving. I think the day actually after Thanksgiving. I think it's a Friday night game.
Yeah.
And yeah, that game is gonna be like I think like deep down, I think we all know what's about to happen in that game. So we'll save it for then. But I think that's gonna be a great game. I'm actually pretty excited for that game.
I will say right now, I'd put A&M on the fringes right now. I haven't really gone through the whole playoff exercise, but they do have the tiebreak. I just would say they just made LSU a 2-loss team, and they beat them head-to-head. That goes a long way in these things. We'll talk more about their upcoming game this week. I don't want to overlook that. We'll talk about that in part 2 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, your Week 9 winner.
Yeah, I'm giving it to Indiana this week. Again, obviously, you look at this and you're like, yeah, 31-17, whatever. But like, they lost their starting quarterback in this game, right? This is the mark of a really good team. When you throw someone in their quarterback that, to be fair, I've never actually heard of before, and you win that game, and not even just win it, you win it in a dominant fashion. Now, whatever, it wasn't the most dominant performance on the scoreboard, but who cares, right? You needed a win that week because your starting quarterback was out. You got it. That's all that matters at the end of the day, right? Nothing else matters. Doesn't matter how clean it was, how unugly it was. You won, and you also covered the spread pretty clearly, right? Like you covered the spread the spread was I think 6.5. You won by 14. great job. Like you cannot have a higher expectation for this team than that outcome, right? And again, just credit where credit is due. Signetti, man, like this is just a terrifyingly good team. Like this team is just, and again, no one saw this coming. From last year, there was no indication that there was any sort of life left on this team whatsoever. To come in this year and just dominate week after week. And again, even if you lose your quarterback, people will be like, "Oh, it's the quarterback." That's no, you lose him, and then you still win in pretty dominant fashion. Now, again, Washington, not the best team ever, but still, though, that doesn't matter. You needed to win this week at home, and you got it. So, shout out to you guys. This team is terrifying, and I think with only a couple more wins here, this team goes to the playoff. So, watch out for that.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the top 25 here. Just one of 2 points here. Indiana number 13, which I guarantee you, if the idiot pollsters actually did not put any credence in their preseason rankings, which for even informed people like you and I are flawed, and for idiot pollsters are beyond useless. They're counterproductive, and that's being kind. We both have them better than 13 right now, and just I'll stack their resume up against anybody for sure outside of the top five. My other note about this is, boy, Washington did it once again. Washington's post game win expectancy was 65%. They had that absolutely gem at Rutgers where they missed 3 field goals and had probably the one of the 5 worst penalties you'll ever see on that blocked kick. They gave up a huge return that almost resulted in a touchdown. They gave up a pick six. Just they find a way. Our ratings both have them as a top 20 team, but geez, they're finding ways not to do it. That weird option call on 4th and goal against Washington State, hoping that it lasts one more week against my team. We're not covering that in part two, so I'll just say it right now. Hopefully they can still be resourceful. Now they do have a home game this week against USC, which could be different. The other side of that is Indiana had probably one of its worst efforts this season. Understandable. I've made the point several times. Every team has a bottom spot, and they won it by 2 touchdowns, which is again, if your worst effort is a 2 touchdown win against a legitimate Power Four team, God bless you. Interesting, good work by Signetti. That's the theme of this year. I can't imagine anybody else is even going to get a vote for Coach of the Year in forget the Big Ten, but even nationally. Cases could be made for Monk and Brian David what's his name. Brian, what's his name? There's 2 Brians that used to be defensive coordinators at Navy. I forget which one is the head coach now, but I think that this is the Signetti season. So good for him.
No, yeah, no, 100%, and it's not even close. I think Stephen A. Smith was like, "Oh, if Deion Sanders wins a couple more games, Coach of the Year." No,
No.
not even in consideration.
Yeah.
Taking a 5-win team and making it an 8-win team is not particularly impressive, even if you have a potentially first-round draft pick quarterback. Okay, good for you. This is the losingest program in all of college football history. And it wasn't like last year was a good year for them. They weren't good. They were bad last year too. And you're taking that team and you're undefeated. That's not even a question mark who the coach of the year is. It's not even close.
Yep. That one's over. All right. Who lost week 9? You know, look, this is, all right. They lost their shot at the bowl game, Florida State. This was not abnormally bad, but this is the rivalry game for you in Florida State. And it wasn't even close to being close. There was at no point did it even seem like they were going to give Miami any kind of a game. Usually in these rivalry games, the underdog, even a big underdog, will come out swinging, and they just had nothing from the get-go. None at all. It's just embarrassing at this point. Now, they've played their way out of a bowl. Good for that. Now, having said that, the other reason I did want to include this is we had in our plays Miami giving 21 and a half. So shout out to my guy Hambone, who taught me a very awesome concept right here. Late touchdown with 18 seconds left. What does our guy Mike Norvell do? Go for one. Just go for the kick. Leave it as a 22-point deficit, as Hambone says. Lose with dignity, and at least he did that. He lost with dignity.
Yeah. So a couple things about this. Just quick fact: this game, I was in Boca Raton. I was actually very close to where this game was actually played, and I watched this. They was on all the TVs there down there. People were watching this game. Not really, it was just on the TVs. But no, it was not particularly competitive. You knew from the very beginning of this game exactly who was going to win this game. It was close, but not competitively close. It was just like Miami just hasn't decided to score for a while. And that's like, that was the feeling of this game because I was watching this game
Yeah.
and it was just like, oh, Miami just hasn't decided to score for a quarter. And that's why it's only like 21-7. So no, it was a very not competitive. And again, my Florida State eliminated from a bowl game. Again, we expected that to happen at some point anyway. This is not a surprise that they were officially eliminated from bowl games. Surprise was after 8 weeks though, but whatever. But no, again, and I love that. Right, I think the final spread closed 22.5.
Yeah.
So we got in early. We got in early week 21.5. We just covered that too, because that was a very close. Because for some reason, when they went up 29-7, they decided to go for two for some insane reason. I'm not sure exactly why they decided to do that. I guess to go up 31-7, which is I don't know what they were. I don't know what the point of that was. That's a very weird thing to do.
Breaking news: their coach is Mario. You don't really need to try to figure out logic.
I guess they're just like, oh, let's try a 2 point play live. I don't know, but whatever. But then yeah, then Florida State just tore down the field in that last minute drive there, and just to get that. But it didn't. It came close to covering, but it didn't actually cover. So thank you for not trying to go for two there, because it definitely could have worked if they'd gone for two. That we would have lost the cover in a game that we should have immediately, like it was over.
Yeah.
Like there was no way it should have even been in question. But it was close. I think obviously there's a lack of competition here, but also like Miami, like they could have blown them out. Like only leading 17-7 at the half is like, why is this close? This should not even be. It looked not close. It looked like Miami was the far better team. This was
Yeah.
surprisingly close, but for a bit. But so that's a bit of a concerning sign for them. But yeah, no, this Florida State team, man, it's really bad, and I think it's starting to hurt them on the recruitment level as well. We'll see. Norvell's definitely going to get another year, but if they can't find a quarterback and an offensive
Yeah.
line and a running game and probably some defensive players too, if they can't find all those things, then yeah, this is going to be they're going to be in trouble next year.
And I don't know, you might remember, I think it was in week 1 or maybe week 0 when I did that breakdown of just like the quarterback position under Norvell. I wouldn't really have a lot of faith in, and I think Norvell's a good coach, but geez, he's dug a deep pit with the quarterback position. Maybe he needs. I was thinking about this as I was walking the dogs today. Predictably, Butch Jones has ruined the good season that Jalen Raynor had. Maybe Jalen Raynor needs to go to Florida State. That's a big step up, but I don't think he'd do anything worse than this cast of characters that they had a quarterback this season.
There's got to be some desperation there at Florida State, and I think that if you're looking, I think you've definitely got to add at least a quarterback in the transfer portal.
Yeah,
And I think if you're looking quarterback, probably some other positions as well. I'm not sure. Again, there's no way to know specifically which players will or will not be available in the transfer portal at the quarterback position. I'm sure Michigan is going to want a quarterback as well. So I think there'll be a couple of teams hunting for quarterbacks. So we'll see. But I think Florida State should. I think they maybe should have been more aggressive. You never know with this, right? Like they got DJU. Was DJU their first pick? Was he their third? Was he their fifth? Like we don't know, right? Were they trying to get Will Howard and they just that fell through, right? Like were they trying to get Dylan Gabriel, right? We have no idea, right? There's no way to know because any number of illegal things could have been happening during that time.
yeah,
Yeah, there's no way to know, but again, it's you need to get better at that. I think some teams that are more desperate are going to start realizing that hey, you get on this now. It's before the bulls even start happening, you're starting to talk to these kids and saying, "Hey, okay, you want to come here? Let's talk." Right?
yeah. Just one other piece of context is you look at what's just going back a couple slides ago. Look what Signetti did with a pretty good, generously quarterback at Ohio in Curtis Rourke, who if you have an apex of about 100 against MAC defenses who are just horrible against the pass, I'd be concerned about that translating to Power Five. And yet Signetti's really done some magic there, and we haven't seen that with DJU. So, anyways, you're a Week 9 loser.
Yeah, you got to give this to Missouri here, right? Look at this offensive effort, right? And this is against an Alabama team that has let up quite a few passing yards. This is not the defensive juggernaut of Nick Saban's years, right? This is an Alabama team that has been very generous to Vanderbilt, to Georgia, to South Carolina. These are teams that have put up decent offensive numbers against. This is far from dominant Alabama defense, and you put up 72 passing yards and 167 rushing yards. Now, okay, yes, I think Brady Cook was injured during the game, but like 7 for 12 for 30, that's not particularly great either. That's not good. And then yeah, Drew Pine threw 3 interceptions. Why is Drew Pine your backup quarterback? I didn't realize that was a thing. Again, I didn't bet on this game. I'm just like, what happened here? But again, like you average 4.3 yards against an Alabama defense. It's also not particularly good. I have some questions here. I think there are some. I have some really big questions about this. Was supposed to be Missouri's year. This was like, oh, we've got Brady Cook now. This is our year. We're gonna be, and that just didn't happen. So, what are you supposed to do here? I think there is some issues here with this Missouri team, and I think they're not nearly as good as people thought. And again, it's not going to matter now because the second loss at this point now is functionally going to eliminate them from the SEC championship game. But
With their
like,
resume, definitely. Yeah.
yeah, like it's going to eliminate them from the playoffs. But this is now to a point where it's just okay. But wait, like that, there's now been 2 losses now, and they got destroyed by Texas A&M, and now destroyed by Alabama. It's just like, why do these games keep happening where you can just do literally nothing on offense? Like, there's nothing you can do accomplish on offense. Why do these keep happening?
Yeah, I think Drew Pine might look into maybe you should consider Florida International. He'd fit in well with that group that threw each of three quarterbacks threw an interception a week and a half ago. So maybe that's where he should land.
Yeah,
All right,
maybe.
my victory laps. First, actually, Jacksonville State did not cover this game, but this is a victory lap for me in that they won handily. I actually made the emphatic point that after Tyler Huff had basically made the top 10 Apex list and they just their offense is surging, I made the point that this should be the team to back for Conference USA champions. And I still see it. These are my updated, abridged power ratings for Conference USA, but I've got Jacksonville State ahead of Liberty, about whom we will talk shortly. Believe me. I'm surprised, but I guess not really, that Jacksonville State is not the favorite to win Conference USA. Western Kentucky is also undefeated in conference, but I don't have that. I don't have Western Kentucky even close to as good as Jacksonville State here. That's on neutral field. That is a touchdown game. Don't know if 230 is juicy enough for me to bite at. Not that it matters because unlicensed books, of which I know, unfortunately, do not offer action on Conference USA champions. I don't think, I guess the thing to talk through with you, just kind of have to hand it off to you initially, would be I don't think you necessarily are looking at a win parlay to get Jacksonville State to win the conference. Since they are undefeated, they can afford a loss. My thinking, they do play Liberty this week, so that's an important game. I don't know. Losses seem pretty evenly distributed in this conference. I'll put it that way. Maybe plus 230 is not the worst bet in the world, considering that I do not trust team one or team three, and team four just by that number tells me that they've got an improbable path to traverse to even make the title game.
Yeah, I think it's starting to look like time to start picking something in Conference USA. I think it's very clear Liberty is not going to win Conference USA for multiple reasons. Is Kennesaw State, is are they not on the board because they're ineligible to win Conference USA, or just because they just
You know, we'll be
realistically
gracious
can't
and
win
say, yeah, that's the reason.
it? Yeah, but like, yeah, they can't win it, so they're not on the odds board. It's not that they've been mathematically
Yeah.
eliminated. But no, it's like we'll talk about that in a second. But wow, like Jacksonville State has actually looked pretty good, as has Western Kentucky. I think they do play the best two teams in the league. Jacksonville State has looked really dominant the last couple of weeks. They started out a bit weak, and I think there's some of that. I think some of that is priced into that plus 230. But like, I think that might be a bit better than Western Kentucky, so I think I might take them for that. Yeah.
This is an unadjusted number here, but I still want to point it out. So this is just passing yards per passing play here, or yard, also known like to intelligent people as yards per attempt. I've been harping on every time that we've talked about Middle 10. I've just said, look, they have just a horrible pass defense. Look who's not too far behind them is Western Kentucky. I'd want to see that stand up in any kind of conference title game where you're getting, I would think, a functionally competent passing game. So we'll see about that. Yeah. Unfortunately, Kennesaw State just, it's not possible, whether it's mathematically or by rule.
Yeah.
One other victory lap for me, actually, one more victory lap for me. The timing on this one is just absolutely exquisite. So this is what I actually listen to this podcast. I will say it's one of the smarter podcasts on a national basis. And yet, Robert, this quote is so good. This was, and check the date. The timing is great. On August 24th, Alex Kirshner of the Split Zone Duo podcast said, Georgia Southern is in the catbird seat in the Sun Belt East. And may I just take it to the box score, or to the score here, with the date included of that same October 24th, where Georgia Southern did not just lose, they lost by 28 to my semi-beloved Old Dominion Monarchs here. This game was not even close. And
No.
just, this is just the remarks of somebody who literally just looked at the standings and said, oh, Georgia State's in first place. Guess what? Number one, you're just overlooking this. Your coach is Clay Helton. He's never in the catbird seat of anything except for getting fired, which he was in way too long at USC for my liking. But he knew that seat. He was in the catbird seat of just being ejected. We loved Old Dominion, although the line had moved. Boy, this was unfortunate. The line had moved to where I said it wasn't bettable. Then the line actually reversed. I don't know if you saw this. Old Dominion actually,
Yeah.
they actually closed getting 2.5. So it was playable at the end. I don't know. I fell asleep. I was too focused on other stuff. I did not play it. So that was a 1 unit miss for me. The other thing, obviously, you just look at these power ratings here. Any kind of power ratings would have told you that, and this was going into that game, not after, going into that game, that we had this as an Old Dominion handy win. Georgia Southern is in the bottom half pretty clearly and easily in this East. Victory lap, a good call at the expense of what I think is a pretty, more often than not, smarter podcast in relation to a pretty bad milieu.
Yeah, catbird seat. Is that like some slang from like the 1920s? I don't hear that in day-to-day life. I don't.
It's more of a literary term. If you were an
Yeah.
English major, you'd be acquainted
Yeah.
with it.
But no, this game was not even close. I did bet this game. I bet this, I think, before, or basically right when we did the podcast. I think I got it like Old Dominion, I think minus 120 or 130 or something like that. And I saw it flip, because what happened was, apparently the sports books, if you follow some of them on Twitter, they actually say, some of the sports books managers on Twitter, they'll say where the money's coming in on the games. And they said, oh yeah, we like, the way I like to look at this sometimes is that I follow these guys, and when it's like, when I'm on one side and then the books are like, yeah, we like, oh, a lot of people are betting the other side, we need this side to win. I'm like, okay, let me just double up my money there. And then, yeah, then that's a good night for me. And yeah, I watched this game, and after the first drive, I'm like, oh, cool, I've won. It was like, okay, this is over now. Like, I had money line, and I'm like, all right, that was pretty easy. And the game proceeded to, I think the score was 47-19. That does not do the game justice at all. It was not even that close. It was not even that close. It was not even that 28-point demolition. It was worse than that. No, I don't think Georgia Southern is particularly good. I don't think Old Dominion is like particularly good either, but I think that looking at this Sun Belt Conference, I think no one in there is particularly good. I think James Madison would have had a shot at doing something, but I think they've lost that now by a couple of losses. I think the one loss, and they're just apparently insistent on not covering spreads, specifically against Southern Miss, like last week when they just were like, "No, we're not going to cover." So, yeah, I think I don't love any of the Sun Belt teams, but I think James Madison is the best. I think when you're looking at other ones, obviously degrees of, oh, there's value on the spread, there's value on the spread, but no, I think Old Dominion was a pretty clear play here, and that was a really good call for us.
It's interesting too, even though I showed them with the best offense in the East, Coastal Carolina actually fired their offensive coordinator. Tim Beck reverting to form. We'll just say that. All right. Overperformers and underperformers. I got this because basically one of my favorite plays was actually this game going under
Yep.
40.
I
And
was
it was
watching
clear
this and
pretty
I was like,
quickly that this was not going to go under. And Minnesota, this is by far their best offensive performance. And not that Maryland's defense is special, but they tend to be somewhat functional at times. This was just I think they never stopped. I don't think they punted until like late into the second quarter. So I was trying to do some diagnosis, and if you can explain this to me, Robert, Minnesota scores 2 touchdowns in their first 2 drives, and then they have 2 interceptions, and suddenly they're gifted 14 points. I'm not sure how that happens, because if it's a pick six, it'll say interception touchdown. I'm not sure what happened here. So I'm a little limited in the specificities I can give, other than Minnesota just had a real day on offense.
Yeah, I was watching a bit of this. I think I was watching another game, but they kept cutting to the multiple scoring plays of this game. And because that was the thing, I was like, it was under. Oh, Minnesota's up 7-0. I'm like, okay, that's fine, whatever. Scripted drive, scoring will slow down, and then they scored again, and I'm like, that's not good. And then it was like an interception, and it's, oh no, and then they scored again. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe the scoring, and then another one. Okay, we're done here. And then Minnesota just didn't stop; they just kept going. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened. I think one of them was a pick six. I think one of them was a pick six, but I think one of them was an interception and then a run in. I think a long run. So I don't know what ESPN's doing there, but there one of them was a pick six. I remember that one was a pick six. I just don't remember the other one. I think was an interception and then like a long run. I think is what it was, but I don't remember. But yeah, again, it was if you had said what was Minnesota's over under in the game, it was definitely not 47 and a half.
I
That's
think the
for
game was at
sure.
41.
Yeah, the total was 41, not Minnesota's team total. Again, sometimes stuff like this happens. I think both of the unders we played this week, the same kind of thing happened. Sometimes offense just begets more offense. That just happens. Not the end of the world. It happens. You just pick yourself up and said they were just gifted 14 points there, which didn't help matters much. So yeah, you just pick yourself up and move on from that one. But
I will say this is more expected for the whole game. Just Maryland 3 plays 4 yards. Maryland 3 plays 4 yards. That's a little more like what I expected. Not this 48 here, but
well,
you know
that
what?
was that was
Okay.
yeah, that was by design, right? Because it was going to be like Maryland 3 plays punt, Minnesota, and it 5 plays 58 yards, 9 plays 65 yards. That's wrong. It's supposed to be like 21 plays, 10 minutes, field goal. That's what
Exactly.
it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be 9 plays 65 yards, 3 minutes 54
In
seconds.
under
No,
4 minutes. So
it's
that's
like
hurry up for them.
yeah, yeah. That's they're not supposed to go that fast. It's supposed to be like 10 minutes, 21 plays, field goal. That's Minnesota football. So I don't know what happened there, but yeah, that's why we. And again, it's like, and this is the same thing. We've come up to this now a couple times with remember the South Carolina game where they scored 3 defensive touchdowns.
Yeah, I was about to
It
say that this is
against
pretty reminiscent of that, the Oklahoma South
yeah.
Carolina game.
And you know what? This is the thing, right? If we're picking a side and it's, oh yeah, there needs to be like 2 defensive touchdowns or three defensive touchdowns, and that's I'm okay losing that. I'm okay losing an under bet to that because it like for every one of those games, there's 9 games that we're betting an under that doesn't happen, and then those
Yeah,
are the ones that hit. So we'll take
yeah.
those losses. That's fine
We
because
yeah
we 9 times out of 10 that's not going to happen.
we cannot complain because we literally had the other side of that with that Syracuse Pitt game,
Yeah.
which was really something. We'll get to that in a second. All right, my other overperformer here is actually the UNLV defense. This is Ashton Ginty's game log, and the number that UNLV did on him compared to basically every other team that he's faced, it's not even close. We're talking they are less than half a yard per run than basically every other defense but Hawaii and barely Oregon. Although even then against Oregon got almost 200 yards here. I had mentioned what a really unfortunate kind of turn here for UNLV in that they had that kind of just a tough, unfortunate loss to Syracuse, and this one is tough too. They just a really good defensive effort, and the pieces are there. They got Haj Malik. One of my Twitter buddies said they're calling. I don't know if you've heard this. UNLV's home field, Allegiant. I think that's what it's called. They're calling it the Haj Mahal. Have you heard this?
No, I have not heard that. That's pretty cool.
I like that. Yeah. And they have a really good defense here. It's just unfortunate that not all falling into place in terms of just the wins and losses, but this is a defense that's absolutely for real.
Yeah, no, it's and it is a bit unfortunate that we're not going to that UNLV is not going to see those results this year. We might have to wait another whole year for them to see those results, and also for Boise to not have an insanely good running back. But those results will come. One interesting thing though, and this is a line that people don't talk about in this, is the fact that G&T didn't get a rushing touchdown until the fourth quarter. And at this point now, basically, for a lot of college games, you're able to bet props. So people are able to bet Ashton Jeanty anytime touchdown. And that line has gotten insane now. It's gotten like minus 800. Like I've seen insane lines on that. And it's, hey, yeah, he almost didn't get that touchdown there. If you're betting that minus 800, you're really sweating that there for him to get that touchdown. You're like, it's the fourth quarter, guys. What's happening? And I think there's a couple of things on that. One, this people could be starting to figure out how to beat this Boise rushing attack. Your Hawaii obviously couldn't for obvious reasons, mostly because they're Hawaii. But we're starting to see some better teams, maybe that are better equipped than Hawaii, being able to beat this rushing attack. And if UNLV has figured it out, UNLV a good team but not the best team, there will be other teams that they will be facing. And I think if you can shut them down, you can stop them from going to the playoff, and then you also are going to have a shot to potential and also knock him out of the Heisman race. Which, if you look at it, we have a new Heisman favorite now. Dylan Gabriel is the Heisman favorite, which is great because if you remember, that was one of our preseason bets for the Heisman. I've got quite a few Dylan Gabriel Heisman futures and Dylan Gabriel first overall pick futures. So yeah, I'm a little happy about that. So we'll see. But again, it's interesting how people were like, "Oh, is his Heisman to win or not?" And then he doesn't get a touchdown to the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden, actually, no, it's Dylan Gabriel now. Okay, I get it, but also it's really dumb.
Good luck with that. I'll just point out that the Heisman market is the least, or is probably the most volatile market I've seen. Boy, that really jumps around, like we've pointed out. If you want to white knuckle that for another month and a half, my God, good luck. Load up on the Pepto Bismol. That's my advice to you.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, you're overperformer here.
Yeah, I'm going Duke here. What the heck happened in this game? I think SMU was like what 17 and a half point favorites in this game,
Yeah,
and they almost lost. And Duke went for the 2 point conversion OT, lost it. They gave SMU, I think they missed a field goal. Like I think SMU had to jump over a defender on the like their Duke was trying to kick a go ahead field goal at the end of the game, and he had to jump over the field goal line and then jump up to block the kick just to get them into OT, and then SMU was able to win an OT by one. What? And again, look at this. Malik Murphy, 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Now, okay, 48 attempts, so the attempts are a bit low and the QBR is a bit low, but still, though, like this is SMU. And again, only allowing SMU 28 points, that's actually pretty good. That's not bad. We've seen SMU put up 40, 50 on some teams in the past. So a good performance by this Duke team. And again, we know who they're this week. It's the man, potentially the Manny Diaz revenge game against Miami. Miami's looked a little shaky the last couple of weeks. Could we see an upset this week? That one could be a bit interesting this week.
yeah. I will say this about this game because I don't know if it was a. I think it was a dual model play, the under in this one, and what a frustrating game in that every red zone opportunity ended in a touchdown. The only field goal I think that was attempted in the whole game was basically that last play of regulation, which was missed. But the yardage just screamed that the under was going to hit here. But just so many touchdowns, just pretty unusual feeling for me that it plays out from a yardage standpoint, but just a flurry of touchdowns. Um, but yeah, Duke really showed up. This is by far I think the best game that Malik Murphy's played against FBS opponents this year. This one hurts.
Here we
I
go.
I don't know how you can. Not that I really was in love with the concept of Liberty University football. But here you go, 26, 27 point favorites, and they ruined my dream of a perfect season. I don't even, I just, that's it. I just, sometimes the podcast needs a poet just to really express the disappointment and strong feelings that I have in a moment like this. That Kennesaw State under should still catch, but just 0-12 was just, it was so going to happen. It was in the cards. It was going to happen. It was just going to be beautiful. But Liberty, I don't even know what to say. I just, they weren't even this good. They were not even this good.
I think there's a couple of crazy stats here. One, of course, there's so many underperformances in this alone. One, the spread was 26 and a half. They scored 24. They didn't even score as many points as the spread was. Two, you allowed them to score 27 points. How? What? How is that even possible? I don't think they've scored 27 points all season. This is a team that was undefeated last year, and they were undefeated. They went to the what bowl was it? One
Is
of
the
the bowls
is
against
the Fiesta
Oregon.
Bowl
Was
or
it?
the Cotton Bowl?
I want to say it was the Fiesta Bowl. But to be fair, there's no way to know. It was the way they do the bowls before are dumb, and this way is also dumb too. But whatever. We don't need to talk about that. They played Oregon in an important bowl. We'll end the sentence there. And you lose to probably the worst team in all of college football.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not like this isn't, oh man, Liberty rebuilding year. You have the same quarterback. You have the same running back. Most of the team is still there. How is this possible? How is it possible? And my model always loved Liberty for, I think, for a couple of different reasons. It basically, this game has immediately taken a lot of that sheen off of Liberty there. So we're gonna have to take a look at this and see what happened. This is not getting any. Liberty is currently not ranked. I think there's good reason why Liberty is currently not ranked, outside of the fact that they lost to Kennesaw State. There have been a lot of concerning games. We knew the loss was coming. I just don't think we thought it was going to be against Kennesaw State. Was what the There was other teams like Jacksonville State could definitely knock them off. They are still favorites against Jacksonville State, which is interesting. And I think this might be Kennesaw State's one win, and that's it. But it's just crazy that it came against what theoretically should have been one of the better teams in Conference USA. Just absolutely crazy. And yeah, it ruined the 0-12 season for the 0-12 Kennesaw State season.
Yeah, I'll just remind you, Kennesaw State lost to UT Martin FCS, and I think it was by more than one score too. And if you saw
They
the
did.
game, Kennesaw State, they are that bad. This wasn't like they suddenly looked like a really good team. They just Liberty just couldn't get out of their own way. I don't know. Just boy, I'm angry about that. Not even bitter. I'm just angry. All right, you're underperformer.
Yeah. What happened in this game here? Texas was 19.5 point favorites in this game. They won by 3. You put up 104 yards rushing against a Vandy defense that is not particularly good. You gave them 2 interceptions. Now you got 2 interceptions back from Diego Pavia, but and you outpassed them. Obviously, that's fine. But this is concerning. Quinn Ewers is not looking amazing at this point. Like 2 interceptions against Vanderbilt. Oh, now Vanderbilt also tried their best to give this game away too. Obviously, Pavia had 2 interceptions. But again, you've got fired Billy Napier coming up. You've got Texas A&M coming up. That's a little concerning if you're Texas. Like I'm sitting here, if I'm a Texas fan, I'm like, oh, I don't know here, guys. This is a little concerning. Like this should have been a lot. You should have won this game a lot more decisively. There shouldn't have been the interceptions. You should have been able to easily run this game out. But now this is what we've been saying about Texas, right? Like last week they lost to Georgia, right? And we'd always said, oh, in the past when they've lost in the Big 12, it's cool. Now we're gonna go play at like a 2-win team, and
Mm-hmm.
we get to go destroy them. This is a team that upset Alabama and Virginia Tech, and now we have to play them instead. Instead of getting a cupcake that has literally no defense, and we can just run the ball all day. Oh, now we actually have to play a good team that potentially can upset other teams. And like this, they could have lost this game. So again, Texas is not. I know people have been saying they're a good team, and they are a good team, but they are definitely not a lock for the playoff here at this point. There could be another couple losses on this schedule.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I just that matchup against Florida is that really looms interesting. So good point on that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, no things that annoyed you this week. So I just want to go back to you had a great time in Florida, and so you enjoyed that. That's why nothing annoyed you. Did you have any
Sure.
Cuban sandwiches in Florida? That is, I love
No,
Cuban sandwiches.
didn't get a chance to. No, I should next time.
You fumbled the bag, as the kids say. I'll keep it at that.
Yeah.
All right, you know what? That gets you an Express Immediate Narduzzi Award. You blew it,
Yeah,
Patty.
that's fair. That's fair.
So,
That's fair. I'll take
all
that.
right, and you're in good company too, because hey, guess who's back? It's I said we might have to rename the award. I didn't say in whose honor, and I think we have another guy that might be in the running here. Nothing better to take your season long struggles for a pretty bad Auburn team than just making a road trip to Kentucky and just going against Bush Hamden. And hey, there's some magic here. 150 yards passing, 70 rushing. What's not to like about that?
Desperate you have to be in a game if you just throw Gavin Wimsat in there and say, "See what you can do." Like
Yeah,
how
save us.
the quarterback that Rutgers was like, "Please make him go away."
Exactly.
Like how bad are you? Like okay, just see what he can do. Like and then throws an interception and 70 yards rushing. Like that's really rough. Again, like how this is a Kentucky team that beat a South Carolina team that almost upset Alabama, that beat Oklahoma, and now you're getting destroyed by Auburn. I don't understand. The SEC is really interesting because I think people think it's a really good league, but it's basically like a couple of good teams and then and then a bunch of really not good teams. And these are both two of the not good teams. The fact that you got beat this badly by one of the not good teams is very concerning. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little aggressive here, but I'm starting to think that hiring Bush Hamden wasn't a good idea. But hey,
no,
the story's not complete yet. We'll see. Speaking of not good offensive coordinators, so you know, this just stuns me. You had years and years about, oh my God, Andy Ludwig, what a genius at Utah, what a great job he's doing, and now he actually, I heard somebody actually say it very well. He got resigned. Basically, he was told to resign. I guess in a firing in all but name. I don't know if you're familiar with this guy, Mike Bajakian. Does that name ring a bell?
no, I don't think so. No,
Yeah. Think of like your absolute worst Northwestern offenses, and that was the offensive coordinator there. And I'm not exaggerating or joking.
no, yeah,
That's
that
him. That's not going to be an upgrade. Hey, you got 300 yards against Houston. And guess what? You're behind Houston now. A Houston team who was in like year zero, who has Zion Chris at quarterback, who was a nice Sunbelt quarterback last year. You're looking up at Houston in the standings. And I think that we thought maybe they might win one or two conference games, but yet they're ahead of Utah. Just this Narduzzi just goes to Whittingham. Just a dumb idea. If you're going to look at that quarterback position, and like we've said for weeks and weeks, it's not like anybody thought, oh, here Cam Rising's he's an Iron Man. We don't really have to worry about his backups here. And that's Andy Ludwig's fault. That's not his fault. This is just it's one of those bad ideas that immediately manifested itself as exceptionally bad.
it's crazy how big this fall has been for Utah here, right? People in the offseason were saying this is Utah's conference now. There is that without Oregon and USC or Washington, this is their conference. There's no one who could possibly beat Utah. There's no way. This is their conference now. It's done. It's over. Cam Rising can come back, gonna win the Heisman. Whittingham, this is his last year. He's going to retire. He's going to lead his team to the playoff, going on a high note. None of those things have even close to happened here at this point. And even games when I mean, like you had Rising back, but he somehow had another injury that was a different injury than the first injury. I don't know how that even happens. Maybe he like falls downstairs like on campus or something. I have no idea. Like if you know this guy, if this guy runs into the sideline and runs into a cooler and sits for a half, I don't know why he's not walking around like 24/7 and just bubble wrap. If I'm the coach, I'm like I'm going to pay someone, you bubble wrap him all the time and that's it. That's your job, is to make sure this guy does not get injured. And apparently he got injured some other way. So I don't like this is it's crazy that we're at this point now where this is a 4-4 Utah team, which is 1-4 in Big 12 play. It's insane, and the caliber of the teams they have lost to is not good, to put it mildly. Yeah, this is a deep hole for this Utah team. Now, again, there are a lot of people who still believe in this Utah program and think Whittingham's got it, but he's been like alluding to. I think there is the quote from him was they scheduled a game against some other team. I'm not going to be here for that. They're like, oh, like the classic, oh, we'll schedule a home and away with a team in 5 years, and I'm not going to be here for that. And people are like, he's going to retire imminently. You scheduled for 5 years in the future. Like, the next president won't be there for that. So I don't know if that's really an imminent retirement, but no, I don't. Uh, yeah, this is really bad, and this is not just the quarterback's fault. 'Cause look at that, 90 yards rushing on 25 attempts against
Yep.
Houston. You know what? Fine. If that was against Ohio State, sure, yeah, that's fine. This is Houston. What are you guys doing here? This is not the numbers you should be seeing against a Houston team. You're this big physical team. You should be able to power run the ball. You can't. You have to get better than that on the run. And yeah, this is very bleak for this Utah team, and I don't know how they fix this in just 1 year to be competitive next year.
Yeah, that's a really good question for the offseason because we'll have to see what they get in the portal. But yeah, no bueno so far. All right, noted for future reference. Your underperformer, Texas. I found this interesting. 5.13 yards per rush in the first 6 games, just 2.18 in their last two. Just really lines up with your point there. Don't know if you saw that Oklahoma at Ole Miss game. Jackson Arnold had 24 carries, and these were not really called runs. This guy, God bless him. At this point, I don't even know if he's good or bad or what, because he had no time to. I don't think he had time to even set his feet half the time. This was rough. Did you see this game?
I did not see this,
Oh,
no, but I heard that it was a very competitive game that shouldn't have been that competitive. Ole Miss should
that
have put them away, but
they should have, yeah, but it wasn't. It was. I think it was just a. Oklahoma's defense is good, and Ole Miss should have scored some more points. But it's Oklahoma's offensive line is about as bad as you're going to see for a name brand program at this time. Next two quarterbacks, we hit on both of these in different points of last week. Michael Van Buren, Mississippi State quarterback, 130 apex against Arkansas. He's a freshman. I again, 2 weeks in a row, I'm saying I'm liking the pieces that I'm seeing come together under Jeff Levy in year one there. Sawyer Robertson, playmaking quarterback at Baylor, 159 apex. Now he's played some pretty bad defenses in, I believe, Texas Tech and some other really bad defense, but that's about as good as you can ask for. Couple of interesting quarterbacks to keep an eye on going forward.
yeah, I that one the Memphis one was very interesting. That game was a lot more competitive. I think they won that by 10 or so, and the spread was 17 and a half. Like they definitely underperformed the spread there. And I think this Memphis team is secretly not that good. That Pitt game was insane. I Pitt did basic they didn't have to do anything. They just won, they were just given the game for free. Now that doesn't mean Pitt's bad by any means, because again, it was like this week with if you watch you didn't really watch it, but if you see the scoreboard from the Detroit Lions game, and Jared Goff passed for 120 yards, and you're like, wow, Lions must have got destroyed. No, they put up like 52 against the Titans because he just handed the ball off and oh, here's an 80-yard touchdown run. You don't have to do anything. You're just like, all right, cool, there you go. I don't have to do. He had 120 yards with like 3 passing touchdowns. But sometimes you like just because a quarterback doesn't throw a lot, that's generally like a lot of people don't quite realize the correlation there. A lot of people, when you're betting on stuff, they'll say, oh, same game parlay of, oh, team covers like minus 20 and a half and 3 passing touchdown, 300 yards passing for the star quarterback. That's not how that works. Those are actually inversely correlated because the more you're winning, the less you actually have to pass. So honestly, under 300 is more correlated with covering a larger spread. So in that case, like the Pitt didn't have to do anything because they were just given it, and as a result, they covered a massive spread. It's a unique correlation that I think a lot of people don't fully internalize when they see some of those same game parlays. But yeah, no, McCord was horrible. He tried to come back a little bit and scored something, but not nowhere near enough to getting that game back to being competitive.
Yeah, in fairness, a lot of his, I think he had 5 interceptions. I think a few of them were not his fault. They were just the receivers just not grabbing the ball. But 3 pick sixes, honest to God, when I was making dinner when this happened, I honestly thought my YouTube TV was malfunctioning and just going back to prior plays. I seriously,
It
I was
gets
getting
stacked.
angry. I was cursing out YouTube TV, and then it just, oh no, it was another one. Okay, how about
That's
that?
that's that's pretty funny actually. I love that. That's pretty good.
Oh. And with that, thank you, college football, for being the best sport that we ever have known and we love and enjoy. Robert, I will talk to you in part two when we preview week 10, and we will catch everybody in that episode. Thank you for watching, viewing, listening.
So yeah,